Let's get to Congressman Rob Wittman, Republican, 1st District, Virginia. That's the Central Virginia area. Congressman Wittman, Merry Christmas to you and your lovely family. Great to have you back, sir.
John, Merry Christmas to you and your family, too. I wish you all a very blessed holiday season.
So, Congressman, now that we've impeached the president, now what?
Well, it's a good question because Speaker Pelosi has decided that she is not going to send over the articles of impeachment. So there's an interesting back and forth there with the assertion by Adam Schiff and Jerry Nadler and the Speaker that this is an open and closed case, that there's all the information there necessary to clearly define a impeachable offense under Article 2, Section 4, which I believe firmly it is not, but they have said that that's the case, and now the Speaker is saying to Leader McConnell that she wants to dictate the terms under which the Senate will hear this case. And then Chuck Schumer says, oh, listen, we want to call witnesses, we want to go through this whole thing again, and it is somewhat contradictory and ironic that they say, hey, listen, we have an open and shut case, all the information is there, and the Senate is there to act as a jury. And now Senator Schumer is saying, well, listen, we want to open up the whole thing again, call witnesses, go through the whole process again. If they have such an open and shut case, then the question is, well, why would you want to do that again? And they also made a comment, John, that they thought that the president was a clear and present danger, and that's why they had to go so quickly to impeach him, because the danger was immediate, yet now the Speaker is holding back and saying, no, we're going to delay the articles coming over there. So, again, another contradiction in what they have said and now what they are doing. And what this boils down to, John, is this is 100% political. I mean, this is meant to be a constitutional process. And when you go to Federalist Paper number 65, written by Alexander Hamilton, he warned exactly against this. He says, don't use this as a political tool. Make sure that you have clear and convincing evidence of a crime committed, and don't use it as a political conduit. Yet that's exactly what Speaker Pelosi is doing, and then what Senator Schumer is doing there, and then dragging this thing out. I can tell you, John, the folks that I talk to are unbelievably frustrated by this. They say, listen, everything now is devolved into just pure partisan politics instead of getting the work of the nation done. And listen, things are going well in spite of this. You look at our economy, you look at all the things that are going on around us, rebuilding our national security. Just think about what could be done if we actually got back to the business of the nation. Think about the things we could do in a bipartisan way to lower prescription drug prices. Think about the things we could do to improve our transportation system. Think about the things we could do to rebuild crumbling infrastructure in the nation. All those things, should be at the top of the list. Impeachment shouldn't be at the top of the list, but yet day after day after day, that's where we are, is impeachment is at the top of the list. And it's interesting, even yesterday, that Speaker Pelosi, when she was asked questions about the impeachment, about holding back the articles of impeachment, she wouldn't even answer those questions. So it really is mind-boggling as to where we are today, and things have just ground to a halt. And again, this devolves us into nothing but pure bare-knuckle partisan politics. And I just, as I talk to folks out there, they're just tired of this. They're fatigued about all the stuff that we're going through. And think about that. In spite of that, look at what's happening in our economy. Another record high for the stock market yesterday. I mean, all the things around us, record low unemployment, all elements of the economy firing on all cylinders, all segments of society enjoying lower unemployment rates, higher wages, higher incomes. I mean, all those things are going in the right direction. Just think about what we could be doing if the impeachment had actually, first of all, not occurred, but since it has, at least dispensing with it. And it seems like that Speaker Pelosi doesn't want to do that.
So, Congressman Rob Wittman, let me ask you this. We all know that Nancy Pelosi is a master political strategist, no question about it. Withholding the articles of impeachment and not immediately delivering them to the Senate, which is what the rules say, what is custom. What's your end game here?
John, I have no idea. The bottom line is this: the House makes its rules and the Senate makes its rules. For whatever reason, she's trying to influence the Senate rules and how they will undertake the impeachment trial there. I have no idea what the end game is, because this just delays it, and I'm certain that certain of her members are looking at this and saying, let's get this done. The longer that this lingers, I think the more problematic it becomes, because, again, I think it builds levels of frustration with the American people, and I think the longer you do this, the more political it becomes in folks' eyes. I mean, listen, it's already 100% political, but people say, hey, listen, we realize where we've gotten to is political, but at least move and get this done, and that doesn't appear to be in the scope of what Speaker Pelosi wants to do.
Congressman, can she hold them back in perpetuity?
Well, she can. I kind of look at things like this, John. The articles of impeachment passed the House. That is actually a product of the House. So it belongs to the House, but the Speaker is the leader of the House, and she is a procedural, I would call it traffic officer that allows things to come and to go. So, yes, it is a product of the House. It doesn't belong to her, but she can determine when that bill leaves the House to go over to the Senate. There's a formal process where the House has to report a bill to the Senate. So she is there as that traffic cop in determining when it goes and when it doesn't go. And again, there's all kinds of contradictions with what she has said and now what's happening. And I feel like this: if they believe that this is such an open and shut case, and they ought to be willing to send it over the Senate and not feel like they have to, retry the case. If they're wanting to retry the case, then in my mind, at least, it says that they don't believe the case is compelling. So,
I guess I had a lot of questions today. So, if Mitch McConnell says, "Well, I'm just going to go ahead and have the trial now and get it over with," can he do that if she doesn't actually physically deliver the articles to the upper chamber, or is the way it is until the House physically delivers them, there's nothing to have a trial on? Which is it?
Well, it's the latter, John. It's that if the articles of impeachment aren't transferred over to the Senate, then there's essentially nothing to have a trial on, because with that comes all of the committee reports and all the information that comes along with it. So if the Senate doesn't have anything before it, then there's nothing for the Senate to act on, and it's hard to have a trial without the set of charges. And then remember, the House will appoint managers, which are essentially the individuals that will provide the case before the Senate. So if that's not done, then there's really nothing that the Senate can do. So yes, it does require that the Speaker send that over to the Senate. That
was my understanding.
Yeah.
So she can stall this as long as she wants, and the Senate can't do anything about it.
That's my understanding. Yes, it has to be formally transmitted to the Senate in order for proceedings to begin.
All right, and Nancy Pelosi spent 90 days telling us what a sense of urgency it was to remove the president from office, and now that they have impeached him with 230 and 229 Congress votes, now the sense of urgency doesn't matter anymore. It was a sense of urgency 2 days ago, but it's not a sense of urgency now. Have things gotten better? I mean, do you see how illogical this is?
Yeah, well, there's a contradiction there. I mean, it was emphasized time and time again how critical the timeliness of getting these articles of impeachment through the House. In fact, I argue the whole process was fast-tracked through the House without any regard to what the minority, our Republicans, wanted to be part of the proceedings. They're like, no, this has to move through, and all of a sudden, well, now it's okay to hold it up. Which I think in most people's minds they look at it and go, well, this is just the bare knuckle politics that are coming with this, and there really wasn't an urgency. There's an urgency only in political expediency, but not in the things that the Speaker wants to achieve politically. And listen, John, I just, this further divides our nation. I just don't think that these things are productive, especially in light of all the things that we have to do. And there's such a list of things that we need to be doing and should be doing, and now we're going to be further bogged down in this back and forth on impeachment. I know that the Senate wants to get the articles of impeachment, is to expeditiously go through that process, just as the Speaker had suggested, but it's apparent that the Speaker, while she may have said that, really doesn't mean that.
Believable. So she'll just hold this up until, I guess, she gets the favorable political climate, or maybe she thinks that by not having a trial, the president's not acquitted, therefore he's just an impeached president. It's the most bizarre thing, but it's like you said, Congressman Rob Wittman, it's the world that we live in today. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. Congressman Rob Wittman with us, Republican 1st District of Virginia. All right, let's get to your new Republican colleague, Jeff Van Drew. What do you think of him switching over?
Listen, I had a chance to talk to Jeff. I think
Really?
he's a very thoughtful individual. I think he wrestled with this decision. I think it was tough for him, but he said it. He said the same as Ronald Reagan said, and as Ronald Reagan went from being a Democrat to a Republican, he said, listen, I didn't leave the party left me. And he tried to struggle with where the Democrat Party was going and where his district was and where he was in representing his district, and just felt like the differences became irreconcilable, and decided to come over to the Republican caucus. So we welcomed him with open arms. I know he was at the White House yesterday with the president and spoke very eloquently about his decision. I'm sure it was a tough one for him, because it's a tough decision to switch parties. And listen, when somebody does that, you're going to get critiques from both sides. So,
right, exactly, right. I mean, he's going to get voting no on impeachment. He couldn't get renominated in his own party. They would have run an AOC type and crushed him. That the polls were already showing that he had no choice. But he's also going to get, regardless of what the president tweets out, he's going to get a Republican challenger because the Republicans down there. And I talked to somebody I know because I'm from New Jersey. Said, "Why are we going to renominate a guy that's been a Democrat for 3.5 decades? I mean, he was in the state Senate, Democrat, House of Representatives, State House, Democrat, Supervisor, Democrat. We're gonna beat him." So I mean, he's kind of in no man's land. But at least he stood up for what he believed in. So you have to give him that. We're with Rob Wittman. All right, USMCA passed finally. So I guess if there's a silver lining to Pelosi not delivering the articles of impeachment, I know that Mitch McConnell said he has cleared the calendar for January for impeachment. Does that mean USMCA gets moved up on the docket in the Senate? What do you think?
Well, I hope it does. I think the USMCA, needs to go through. I mean, we see the economic impact that it'll have for the United States. Billions of dollars of additional economic opportunities, hundreds of thousands of new jobs. I mean, I think it's critical for the country for this to move forward. Hopefully, Leader McConnell will do that. And certainly if there's a delay in these articles of impeachment coming over to the Senate, then that opens the door for him to bring USMCA to the floor there, get it done, and get it to the president. And I give the president credit. He said, listen, I don't care who gets credit. Let's just get this done, because he knows how critically important it is for our nation. And it did get done through the House, fortunately.
Well, when do you think it'll actually get to the Senate then, and they'll be able to act on it and then get it into law?
Well, the Senate's back in session, I believe, on January the 7th. So it's should be there by now. It formally gets transmitted, I think the day after. So I believe it will be there on their desk today. So they could act on it in January, at the first week in January of next year.
So that would be, if there is a silver lining to not delivering the articles of impeachment, that would be it, that we can get USMCA faster. All right, I've only got a couple minutes. What are your other two top legislative priorities to get done?
Well, John, one of the ones that has gotten done is the National Defense Authorization Act. In fact, I'll be going over to Andrews Air Force Base today with the president as he signs the the National Defense Authorization Act. I think that is incredibly important, but we have more to do. So coming up this year is to make sure that we get a National Defense Authorization Act done on time. We did this year, but only by the skin of our teeth. Another element that's incredibly important, John, is getting a budget done on time.
Yeah.
And getting a budget that actually puts us on track to manage this nation's spending. Listen, we got constitutional responsibilities to provide for our nation's military, but we cannot continue to spend ourselves into oblivion, and it just doesn't seem like that is up on anybody's radar screen. So, my most important priority is to continue to push to make sure a budget is done on time, and that we at least have a debate about how to responsibly address our deficit and debt. Those things are absolutely critical. I've been blessed to get a number of bills through this year. The Veterans Court bill that creates a system of veterans courts is now it passed the House, and the Senate bill passed. There's a little bit of difference there, so we need to be able to work that out. So I want to get that done quickly next year because the President's indicated that he will sign that bill. We've got a number of other natural resources bills, environmental bills that will be helpful to the Bay, to fisheries, that have passed out of the House that we're going to work to make sure they get through the Senate. So I have a whole list of things that have been done in the House and are right at the precipice of hopefully getting done in the Senate so the President can sign them into law. So those will be the things that we're working on in priority next year. But, John, at the top of the list is getting budgets and appropriations bills done on time and to have a debate and hopefully for the Congress to have the backbone to address our debt and deficit.
Well, nobody's talking about that. And the budget just passed that you guys just passed raised spending by, what was it, another $49 billion, right? Year over year.
It did. Now, listen, I voted in favor of the package of appropriations bills, of which were 4 that included national defense, because there's some incredibly important things in there. But the package of 8 bills that were the issues that I had with where we were going with government, I voted against. So I was pretty adamant to say, you have to stand on these issues as it relates to this nation's constitutional responsibilities, obviously, for our national defense.
Going forward, we all understand we had to get defense spending that was hammered by sequestration back up and get to where we need to be. But, we have a $22 trillion debt. Nobody's even talking about it now. And then you add another $50 billion in spending. I mean, it's just at some point we're going to have to pay up here. And it's just got to be dealt with. I mean,
right.
I remember getting senators on the phone when Obama was president, and I'm not a fan of George W. Bush, as you know, sir, so let's not get down that path on Christmas, but I would get Warner and Kane on, and Bobby Scott, another Democrat, Don Beyer, when he first got elected, and I kept asking them, what number is going to keep you up at night? It's not 10 trillion. We passed that, not 15, not 18. I remember at the end of Obama, it was like $18 trillion. Now it's $22 trillion. I've even stopped asking the question. I'm tired of asking it. But there's got to be a number that's bad, right? I mean, if it's not 22 trillion, is it 25? I mean, there's got to be a number that has got to keep you guys up at night. I don't know what that number is. I can never get a straight answer, but it would seem to me it's getting close, isn't it?
Well, John, economists will tell you once it gets to 100% of GDP, it does begin to impede the economy. And listen, we are right there. We are right there at the precipice of it being 100% of GDP. So it has to be addressed, period. No two ways about it.
Well, the president has said if he's elected in his second term, he's going to make that his priority. We'll have to see how that goes. But, Congressman Rob Wittman, I am out of time. I want to wish you, your lovely wife, Catherine, your family, the boys, your daughters, a very, very wonderful Christmas holiday. And I just want to remind our audience that I've been on the air 9 years, and Rob Wittman has come on my show every week for 9 years. I mean, that's pretty amazing. You talk about a transparent representative. You can ask him any questions. There's no preparation. He just dials in every week for 9 years. And Congressman, thank you for that. Thank you so much.
Well, John, thank you for the opportunity. You do a great job in really getting to the heart of the issues, and I really appreciate that. And listen, I wish you and Ann and your entire family a very, very blessed Christmas, and we look forward to joining you again in the new year. I hope you all have a great, restful holiday season.
Thank you, sir. John Fredericks, Radio Network, Rob Wittman.